Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. It is Tuesday, November 28th. I am Patrick Daugherty. That is Denny Carter if you're watching, but most of you are probably listening, so you don't know who in the world I'm talking about when I say that. But it's Denny Carter. Craig.
It is me.
Dennis Carter at CD Carter 13 on X. And I'm assuming also Blue Sky.
And any microblogging platform out there, anywhere where humans are microblogging, I'm there at CD Carter 13.
He's been threatening to take my family hostage if I don't sign up for Blue Sky. So
I can't believe you haven't done it.
I actually can't either. But you know what? I also can't believe, Denny. So first off, a lot of news today. We're going to get to Justin Jefferson's return after the Vikings' bye. Jonathan Taylor's injury, ? The new thing. Kyren Williams returning and being an RB1. Calvin Ridley, elite again, ? Zay Flowers, a lot of stuff this week. But first, Denny, the Carolina Panthers, just kind of a model organization, other than botching every draft pick and firing a coach every 8 months. Having a bit of a tough week, where Frank Reich made it the fewest games into a season for a new head coach since I believe 1978.
Yes.
So what do you think is going on with the Carolina Panthers? This is good and bad. Is there any difference between good and bad Panthers things? What is your opinion on what's going on in Charlotte?
Well, look, I would say that David Tepper tried the avenue where you hire a coach who wasn't a short order cook, and it didn't work. Everybody said, hey, you got to order, because their previous coach, Matt Rule, was a short order cook, and that's why he was hired as a coach. And you said, well, you gotta get a guy who's actually good at coaching, right? And so they tried Frank Reich, and that didn't work. But really, I said this on the line online, that it sure feels like the reports that David Tepper overruled Frank Reich and the rest of the staff in favoring C.J. Stroud over Bryce Young, and kind of forcing their hand and making them pick Young as the first overall pick. It feels like that sort of locked in this scenario. I don't think that there was any way around that once that choice was made.
No, and Denny, what we're basically saying, we're all kind of saying, is new Daniel Snyder just dropped.
No, I would say a little less toxicity, but still.
Maybe. I mean, we don't really know.
We don't know yet.
There was a story one time about him putting brass balls on someone's desk at his other business.
That's not toxic.
A male underling's desk, very toxic though. It doesn't sound like the best. I mean, it can't finish. He just rug pulled a stadium, a practice stadium project.
Yeah. So maybe I'm giving him a little too much credit. You know what though? At least David Tepper's great talking to the press. Can I read you a quote from today when he was asked about the future of the organization? He said, quote, "I would like someone to be here," talking about a head coach. "I would like someone to be here 20, 30 years. I'd like to have someone say the eulogy at my funeral in 30 years.
Relax."
And then he followed up by saying, okay, maybe 40. So
I was going to say that's some rare humility from a super rich guy. I'm surprised he didn't say 80 years.
Right. I mean, we're going to have, I thought he would say we're going to have AI David Tepper running this team in 40 years. But yeah, I mean, he clearly wants someone for the long haul. That's not happening though.
Did you see the story going viral that he bought his old boss's mansion in 2014?
Oh my gosh.
Hold on, this is not a joke. He was fired or something by this man, I believe, and bought his house for $40 million and then demolished it. So this is kind of who Frank Reich was dealing with, and sheds maybe a little insight into why Frank Reich, when they asked him in week 6, "Are you having fun?" And he was like, "No, lol." LMAO, no.
He said, "Does it look like it? Does it seem like anyone here is having fun?" I have to say though, I watched a little of that Panthers Titans game the other day. The vibes have never been worse on an NFL sideline. I'm talking about players, coaches. Nobody wants to be around there. Okay, like they desperately want the season to be over.
They do, and they desperately need it to be. At least they have the number 1 overall pick, though. Am I right, folks? Am I right?
No, you're not right. Actually, they mortgaged their future for a guy who may or may not be NFL caliber.
I'm shocked you didn't get his height in there. I thought you were going to immediately say his height.
Well, look, we'll pull back the curtain a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I think I've thought the whole time Bryce Young is too small. The key to drafting in the NFL is really simple. It's super simple. You
I know what
you
you're going to say.
big quarterbacks and small receivers, and you win Super Bowls. It's really just that.
As Kyle Dvorchak put it to you in our chat this morning, you get large QBs and small wide receivers.
That's it.
The Houston Texans took your advice. Denny, now the GM of the Houston Texans, this is why we're not supposed to reveal this yet. The voting leaked. He's won the AP Executive of the Year award for what he did with the Houston Texans.
I have. I mean, really, it is kind of. I mean, the future of the NFL is a bunch of 160-pound receivers and 6'7" quarterbacks.
Someone's going to bring back the large wide receivers. The Chargers tried it; it did not work.
Oh, that's
real quick.
No,
try to not do a bit with this one.
All right.
Do you think Bryce Young has a better or worse NFL future than Josh Rosen did?
Better.
Hard to be worse.
Yeah.
Than that one. So
right. I bet better by a little bit. I think the upside thing for Bryce Young, and this is not a bit or anything. I think that he can stick around as a backup quarterback in the league for a while. Yeah.
He can maybe have like a Gardner Minshew. He basically looks like he should be a Gardner Minshew type, like a spark plug off the bench who could be a bridge quarterback, a fill-in quarterback. Could look completely hilarious, I guess, in 2 years if we're just catastrophically wrong. Full disclosure, liked Bryce Young heading into the draft. I was a little uneasy about him being a number 1 overall pick in a draft, but I thought he was a first-round quarterback. That's because I would see him like scramble around against Auburn and be like, hey, that's awesome. And kind of forgot there's a huge difference between 5'10" in the SEC and the NFC South. I'm not trying to be insulting. I mean, there are lots of guys who have been picked early who have ended up just being backups, and that happens sometimes. I think that's what will happen with him. I will say the next coach of the Panthers is the main directive, the primary directive will be make Bryce Young work. And if they can't do that, that person will be fired as well. And the next Daniel Snyder thing, this is the most toxic opening since like several Commanders openings in a row. Like, who is going to want to take this job for that owner and with this quarterback? But we digress. We've been digressing for 8 minutes. It's time to move on to the news of the week. A very bizarre Monday Night Football game, a very sleepy Monday Night Football game where it appeared we might not get a touchdown. One team didn't get a touchdown, the Chicago Bears. They became the first NFL team all season to win a game in which they did not score a touchdown. It was the first game since I think last week 18 when Skylar Thompson and maybe Joe Flacco squared off with the Jets and Skylar Thompson for the Dolphins. It was the first it would have been the first game without a touchdown since then, but the Vikings got it, but they lost. Denny looked very, very bad. Josh Dobbs, just kind of these backup quarterbacks, we know the returns have a way of becoming diminishing.
Yes.
It took a while in the desert for Josh Dobbs, almost 2 months before they moved on from him. Maybe took only 2 games in Minnesota, ? And just wondering what you think about this Vikings offense. They're on bye this week, but Justin Jefferson will finally be back in week 14. What do you think about the Vikings offense, and can Justin Jefferson still be an elite wide receiver 1?
I mean, just to address that, yes, I believe Jefferson can, just by sheer force of volume. I think that can happen. Look, Josh Dobbs is really exciting. I really like watching him play. It's a cool story. We've talked on this show before that he hasn't been great as a passer, and I have some stats if I can share that with the class real quick.
By all means.
Josh Dobbs is 22nd out of 29 qualifying quarterbacks in completion rate over expected. He's 29th out of 30 quarterbacks in PFF passing grade, 29th out of 34 quarterbacks in adjusted yards per attempt. And then when you compare him to Kirk Cousins, who of course was throwing passes to Justin Jefferson last time we saw him, Kirk Cousins led all quarterbacks in on-target percentage before his season-ending injury. Dobbs is 29th in that category. So I mean, it's just a massive downgrade as far as passing goes for all of these guys, including Jefferson.
And so when Jefferson comes back, is it game over even for TJ Hawkinson? Can Josh Dobbs support both Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson? Or will Justin Jefferson just become the primary receptacle for these short area targets? As kind of so often happens with backup quarterbacks, they just lock on to one guy, and why would it not be Justin Jefferson?
Right. No, I don't think it's like necessarily Jover for Hawkinson, but Vikings are 3% over their expected dropback rate since Dobbs took over, which is pretty good. They were 10% over against the Bears. So I do think just the nature of this offense and the fact that they don't really have a good running back on the roster is going to force them to drop back a lot and throw a lot of passes. I would say that really this is horrible for Jordan Addison. Like I know Addison had a tough night last night, 160 some air yards, 39 real yards against the Bears. Really tough for my teams, but we're going to get over eventually. Yeah. So I think it's real bad for Addison with Jefferson's return.
See, one of the themes of the night was poor quarterback play. Josh Dobbs played a lot worse than Justin Fields, but Justin Fields was kind of a perpetual fumble machine. Yeah. One of his worst games we've seen in a while. And it's the exact kind of game. The narrative is going to be correctly that this stretch run, like he has to convince the Bears once and for all, they're going to build around him. We probably think that he's on the outside looking in of that. I mean, I just don't know how they could pass up on another number one overall pick, even though Justin Fields has flashed some interesting traits and had some really interesting games. They just don't ever win with him. Part of it is that you could argue they're holding him back. But what do you think the odds are right now that Justin Fields is still the Bears' starting quarterback in 2024? I know this isn't a fantasy conversation, I know, but do you think he is actually back as the Bears starter next season?
I have a hard time with believing that. I don't think Justin Fields has shown anything to suggest that he is like a locked in starting NFL quarterback. I mean, he'll start for somebody next year because this is such a quarterback hungry league. But if the Bears have a really good, and they are going to have a really good pick because they have the Panthers pick, right?
They've got the number one pick. Let's not
okay. So if you can trade in, not trade in, but if you can move on from Justin Fields and take Caleb Williams, I'm pretty sure you're doing that. Pretty sure, or Drake May or whatever. I mean, you gotta do it.
Mizzou's Brady Cook, who's not even.
Hey, he's good.
He's actually pretty good, but he's not going to be clear. He has a year of eligibility left.
I will say that I have a weird thing with the Chicago quarterback curse. Part of me, Pat, just feels like it's just too cold to do well there.
It's not even the coldest market, though. I mean, Green Bay, it kind of disproves this, I feel like, with back-to-back all-time Hall of Famers. Don't get me wrong, they choke every single year in the playoffs because it's too cold.
Right.
I've been on that kick. I know you've been on that kick. I don't think the Packers should build a dome, but I do genuinely believe that Lambeau is not home field advantage. It's the exact opposite in the playoffs because it levels the playing field too much.
Yes.
That's why the Packers have lost so many home games at Lambeau Field. Because when it's 6 degrees and no one can feel their body, that totally levels the playing field between good and bad teams. It basically turns it into a coin flip.
Yeah.
And they keep losing to bad teams.
And people would say, well, what about Josh Allen in Buffalo? And I would argue that Josh Allen's style of play is probably less susceptible to that frigid weather that they face throughout the second half.
Even that, they almost lost to Skylar Thompson at home in the playoffs last year.
You're right. And I'm trying to be generous. But I do feel like until the Bears build a dome, they will have no good quarterbacks.
They will. It is extremely bizarre that the Bears just cannot get a good quarterback for going on seriously over half a century.
Yes,
the Bears
right. We're not talking 20 years. No. We're talking about in living memory.
I mean, Richard Nixon in 19, the Bears can get a quarterback. I mean, a hell of a team.
Build a dome.
Yeah, I know. Dick Nixon just demanding a dome. For the Bears. You might not think it's real. It's on the White House's website. Go look it up.
I've suggested this before. Every year we hear Bears brass, no matter who's in charge, okay, say we got to get back to Bears football. They really they need to swear off Bears.
They
football.
do. I know. I think I've heard this from you before.
Yeah, you need to say we're done. We're done with Bears football. We got to build a dome. We're never going to run the ball again. We're going to do the analytics. It's going to be fine.
They're literally moving to the suburbs and probably building a dome. So I guess they're listening to you.
That'd be great.
Oh, we're not. They got to playing like literally in Lake Michigan is what makes the Bears the Bears. I think it'll be awful if they do it, which they are going to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, Justin Fields, he's just not going to be back. And I do think it kind of everyone's fault. It is, of course, his fault for not playing quite well enough. I know it becomes such a lazy like narrative and like framing device. I do think he has been held back by his coaching staffs. You got to let the man throw down the field sometimes. Like last night, the Bears won the game because they let Justin Fields throw down the field once. It was a literal tweet, like throws down the field once. and he threw down the field once and hit DJ Moore for a huge gain, and then they won the game.
Yeah.
And so he has not been utilized intelligently, I would say. But he also, no matter how bad your circumstances are, if you're good, you will overcome them. The good players overcome them, and he just has not done that. And I do not think he will be the Bears starter.
Yeah, I don't think so. 2.5 air yards per attempt last night for Justin Fields. Whatever that was, that's got to go. It's
got to go. Yes. Do you think? I think Justin Fields could probably get a second-round pick. Maybe that's delusional.
No,
I don't think he can get a first at this point. I think
no, not a first, but I think a second. I'm trying to I don't know.
Scanning through here, man. It's like the Titans.
That'd be interesting.
The Titans. Friggin'
the Tennessee team. You're forgetting the Tennessee.
Yeah, producer Adam says maybe the Bucks. I mean, maybe the Commanders, although I don't know why they would really take
No. They're in love with Sam Howell.
They are absolutely in love with Sam. I mean, no, not the Saints. The Bucks and the Titans are the two really obvious ones right off the bat.
Falcons?
Maybe the Rams. He could end up somewhere crazy. Like if a Sean McVay could decide, like, I'm going to make Justin Fields my special project.
I trust McVay with that. Let's do
it. So he'll be somewhere. I think he will be starting. I think he has shown enough to get like a second chance in like better circumstances, quote unquote. But at the Bears, they can't. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. If they could trade Justin Fields and get a first rounder and have 3 first rounders, that would be enough. They could trade that then for a dome. All 3 of those first rounders
for one dome, please.
Yeah. 3 first round picks for one dome in Arlington Heights, Illinois. Don't move. Stay in Lake Michigan. Roschon Johnson, the Bears lead back, by the way. I mean, should we even can't talk about this? Doesn't matter.
No, it matters. Our colleague, Kyle Dvorak, tweeted about this today. I should say posted about the takeover of Roschon Johnson with Khalil Herbert coming back, by the way, and seeming to, I guess I assume that he would have the role, the locked in starter role, but Khalil Herbert played 22% of the Bears snaps against the Vikings. They held the lead the whole time, so that really wasn't an excuse. Roschon Johnson outtouched Herbert 15-8 with a 75% snap share. As Kyle said, it appears to be a quote full-scale takeover for Johnson, and man, that came out of nowhere.
It did. It really did.
Because Roschon Johnson, per the metrics, has been really bad.
For the eye test too, has not been good.
Deontay Foreman has been really good. Foreman missed last night's game in case you missed it. So I guess Foreman's the starter when he comes back.
I've seen some of the film bros say he had some hellacious blitz pickups, so maybe that has something to do with it. But the metrics haven't been good. The eye test, like, man, this guy looks like Austin Eckler going side to side too soon. Too soon.
So the next gen stats data said that Eckler was going 13 miles per hour on that very slow run down the sideline a couple weeks ago. And I kept seeing questions and earnest questions. Is that slow? And the answer is that Tyreek Hill runs 22 miles per hour.
I know.
So, yes.
I had that delusional thought, like, can I run 13 miles an hour? I'm pretty sure the answer is no.
No, you can't.
No, I was like, pretty sure the answer is I can't even come close. But it was slow enough that it put those kind of thoughts in your head, like, can I run faster than Austin Eckler at this point?
Can I play starting? Can I be starting running back for the Chargers?
Can I be the Chargers' third option in the passing game? I have better hands than Quentin Johnston, I think. Anyways, what were we talking about?
Oh man, Brandon Staley had a whopper with Quentin Johnston. Said we don't not have confidence in him.
No, man, how does this guy still have a job? But again, I really don't like calling for people's jobs. That is not nice. It's just mean spirited. But man, how are the Chargers not shaking it up yet? This guy fails. He's the defensive minded. The only luxury of having a defensive minded head coach. So you're always on your back foot because you're having to cycle through offensive play callers if they're any good. So you better at least be one of like the 6 or 7 best defensive minds in the NFL. And Brandon Staley is just certifiably not that.
No,
he's not doing his job. And it is crazy they haven't shaken it up and fired him yet. I guess it's a lost season.
Adam Schefter said yesterday that there will be up to 10 coaching changes this season, and that is definitely one of them.
It does feel that way. And he will certainly, whether it's 3 or 10, he will be one of them. Whether this break is 3 or 10 minutes, we can't tell you. But we will be right back after this. If you want more Formula One after the recent Grand Prix in Vegas, check out CNBC's special podcast series, Inside Track, The Business of Formula One. An inside look at what's fueling F1's popularity and who is profiting. Hear from the biggest names in the game, the league CEOs, and the $1 million packages rolled out for the most elite fans. You can listen by following the Squawk on the Street podcast wherever you download and subscribe. Oof, man, I was leaking oil during that promo read. I barely made it through. I did a test run of it even before the show, and I was excited to read it. I thought I had it, but
you got it.
I know I got it. Yeah, they changed my tires while my car was still moving.
I don't know how they do that.
Is that allowed? By the way, I can't pronounce it. And we had a good NBC News article from Salil Kapoor, who normally is a political reporter. He had an article on F1 that I found very interesting. Go check that out.
Yeah,
if you can find that. But anyways, moving back to the NFL, Jonathan Taylor, Denny has a mystery thumb injury that he suffered in a 16-carry, 91-yard, 2-touchdown performance on Sunday. His status is up in the air. This would maybe explain why Zach Moss popped up for like a series or two. And like, I think he had like seriously all 7 or 8 of his carries in like 2 mystery series in the third quarter. And we don't know what's going on with Jonathan Taylor's health. So we don't really know what to tell you other than it's bad.
Yeah.
And, what would happen to Zach Moss, I guess? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, Zach Moss, who is elite.
Stop.
He's really good.
Stop.
He would be. I mean, if Taylor's out, then Moss is an RB1, right?
I probably, especially this week, there's 6 teams on by.
Look, these are Zach Moss's starts for Jonathan Taylor earlier this season, right? 90% of the running back carries, that comes out to almost 22 per game. 90% of the running back touches, so that includes receptions, and then an 8% target share, which is not really anything to write home about, but all of the green zone stuff, all the inside the 10. So I'm super excited about Moss if Taylor's out.
And so I guess there's no real analysis to do here. Jonathan Taylor out, very bad. Jonathan Taylor out, very good for Zach Moss. A total, you would have to empty the clip if he was thrown back to the waiver wire. Do whatever you could to get him. He's probably still rostered in maybe north of 50% of leagues, but the leagues where he's not, someone got impatient or whatever.
Yeah,
to move heaven and earth to get him, basically.
Oh my gosh, yeah. If you don't mind, I'm just going to check on his roster percentage real quick. Wow, you're right. You're exactly right. 50%.
Okay, wow.
On Yahoo, 50%. So yeah, if he's out there, folks, you got to get him.
You really do. You have to get him because Denny's not exaggerating. He will be an RB1. Because he was an RB1 when Jonathan Taylor was not playing. It's pretty simple.
Also, the Colts are like wildly run heavy of late.
Yes, they are. Understandably so. They're trying to make an end around on a playoff appearance, and Gardner Minshew has a way of kind of throwing those away. Minshew is this man. How could you not love him? He really does deserve to be a folk hero.
Yeah, because
he knows I'm just out here doing my job. Like he knows he's not supposed to cost him the game, but in his head, it's like, what if I cost us the game? Like, what if I drew this ball over that mountain?
Right.
And Marcus Peters just picked it off. He was claimed off waivers and immediately intercepted me.
Right. Has a throw into triple coverage ever worked for me? No, but it might work this time.
Yes, but it might work for me. And you just said it never works for you.
If I throw it extra hard.
Yeah, I know. He is a real life Uncle Rico. Zoomers have no clue what we're talking about. But Google, they actually probably do know. Memes, culture has just been flattened. There's been like 5 movies breakthrough in the past 20 years. Napoleon Dynamite remains one of them.
Yeah, that's about it. There have been 5 movies made, basically.
Do you remember when there used to be famous? I'm not the first person to make this observation. Remember when there used to be famous movie quotes?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There used to be famous movie quotes. People won't know what I'm talking about, but there used to be famous movie quotes.
There used to be movie stars.
I know.
That?
I do remember that. It's quite sad.
not just people doing Visa commercials and Netflix series.
Denny would crawl over the corpses of 1 million fantasy analysts to have a Visa commercial.
I would. I would,
yeah.
absolutely.
Then he would crawl through broken glass to get one Capital One commercial.
If you, yeah, I mean, and if you want to test that theory, you can come put broken glass in my office. I will walk across it like Bruce Willis in Die Hard.
Now there are famous gifs now, or there are famous gifs. Like there's no longer quotes. There's just famous moving images now. Like, oh yeah, Steve Carell, he moved his head weird. That's the most famous movie quote of the past 20 years. It's just Steve Carell moving his head weird on a TV show. That's the most famous movie quote of the past 20 years.
Ryan Gosling pulling down his sunglasses.
Yeah. Please. So here's looking at you, kid, and then Ryan Gosling gifting. And by the way, I think the last famous movie quote, in my opinion, is from the kind of sort of forgotten Captain Phillips, but I'm the captain now. I think that's the last famous movie quote.
I was going to say it was from Anchorman.
That was 2004. I mean, that's getting up there. I mean, oof. Captain Phillips is now 10 years old too. But I'm the captain now. That's the last famous movie quote. We digress.
Yeah.
We digress bigly. We're moving on to Kyren Williams, who I wish I loved anything as much as Kyren Williams loves facing the Arizona Cardinals. I really, really wish that I did, because when Kyren Williams faces the Arizona Cardinals, he immediately rushes for 150 yards and catches 6 passes for 61 yards. So 158 yards rushing in week 6 against Arizona before he went on IR. He comes off IR in week 12 and has 204 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns against the Cardinals. So 2 totally explosive performances against the same bad defense. Royce Freeman did remain pretty involved as a backup, 16 or 17 carries. It was a blowout. So that could have been his closeout time, garbage time type touches. The point is, we don't quite know what we're getting with Kyren Williams, since we've only seen him face the same bad defense. He was performing well before that, of course. But it's 2 big games. Mm-hmm. Both came against the Cardinals. He faces the elite Browns defense this week. We don't know if Myles Garrett is going to play. It sounds like he probably is going to play. Is it fair, though, to call Kyren Williams an RB1 after back-to-back this completely dynamite performances against Arizona?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think this Rams team really, really wants to be run first, which we've been kind of calling for on this show for a while. They're 5% under their expected dropback rate over the past month. That includes the weird game without Stafford, so take that for what it's worth. But even against the Cardinals, they were 1% over that rate. So but I do think Kyren Williams is locked into this almost every down sort of role. I think it's real bad for Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp that Kyren Williams is such a focal point, the focal point really, of this offense right now. I mean, you can't have everything, right? Like, you can have a lot of Kyren or you can have a lot of Puka / Kupp, but you can't jam everything, all those guys together and say, oh, everybody's going to have a big fantasy. Not in this offense, right? So that is something to consider if you have Kupp or Nacua in your, on your teams. But yeah, Kyren's locked in.
This week, it's not like the Browns have a pushover run defense, but we know they have a totally elite pass defense.
Yeah.
Stands the reason the ground, with or without Myles Garrett, will be the focus of the Rams.
Right. And if folks read the Funnel Defense Report on Fridays, you will know that the Browns are mentioned almost every week as the most extreme, reliable run funnel defense there is. Everybody establishes it against the Browns because they're terrified of passing it. And here's another thing, Pat. It's a solid run defense. It's not elite. They actually lead the NFL by a good margin in the rate of missed tackles against running backs. So they struggle in that department. They're not. I just feel like a guy like Kyren can definitely get there against Cleveland.
He can, and it might be a fluke. They're really not that bad from an efficiency perspective. They allow 4.1 yards per carry, which we know is not a perfect stat, but they're not giving up a ton of explosive runs. They give up a lot of rushing touchdowns, which again could be a fluke. But they're going to have a run focus. The Rams are, especially because they do not want Matthew Stafford fumbling this game away against the Browns.
Right. And the Rams are somehow they're in the playoff picture. And you have to consider that. I don't understand it, but it's true.
No, all the in the hunt graphics are down so bad. Like if you watch halftime of Sunday Night Football on NBC, or you watch some ESPN after the game, the in the hunt, I'm like, wow, the 2008 Lions are still in the hunt for a playoff spot in the NFC. That seems
right.
weird.
Right. The Panthers, if they win out, are in.
The Panthers still, people aren't talking about the Panthers control their own destiny.
Why
they fired Frank Reich?
Media is silent on this.
They are silent on that. They go 7-10. They're the number 2 seed in the NFC if the Panthers win out. You go 7-10. They'd be the second best division winner. The Cowboys would get really screwed there.
Yeah,
they would have the second best record, but Panthers 7-10. They're the number 2 seed in the NFC.
They still have a 4% chance of being the number 1 overall seed.
They do. They have having home field through the conference title games. Yeah, people aren't talking about this, but yeah, maybe we didn't need 7 playoff teams.
Maybe not.
Speaking of the playoffs, MVPs are people. This is the worst seg. I couldn't think of an actual segue. No, just don't worry about it. Don't worry. The segues late in the season have been getting really ragged. Like speaking of Seinfeld, Denny. What?
Speaking of football, next thing.
Speaking of football, speaking of football, am I right? I just thought, I don't know why. It's the year of the wide open MVP race. The MVP race has been getting weirder the past 2 or 3 seasons as the passing revolution ends and like the overall scoring and production comes down. A lot of years it's just abundantly clear who should be the MVP. A lot through like the glory years, even of like Peyton and Brady, even when they were like all going toe to toe for records, it was usually clear like, well, Tom Brady's the MVP this year.
Yeah, right.
Peyton Manning's the MVP this year. It was kind of that way with Patrick Mahomes last year. It is not that way this year. And I just wondering who you think, like ignoring like the betting odds, ignoring like the narratives, who do you think is the MVP of the NFL right now?
Dak Prescott. And
I almost went there.
I got the pushback on Dak is always ferocious. I guess because he's like a Romo type where it's in the eye of the beholder, right? With whoever is the Cowboys quarterback. Dak Prescott.
The Cowboys quarterback is the id of America.
That's right. That's exactly right. Coming out of the bye week in October, the Cowboys made a very conscious decision to put the offense on Dak Prescott and say, we are through with this balanced nonsense. Okay. Like our running backs are not doing all that much. Okay. The guy on the cover of the Rotoworld magazine, whatever, is not doing that.
Bring that up every opportunity you can.
But so we're going to put it on you. And so the Cowboys have been super, super pass heavy, the pass heaviest team in the NFL since that point. And they have blown the doors off. Our producer, Adam, says 17 touchdowns to 2 interceptions for Dak Prescott since the bye week. That's 5 games. His ADOT is through the roof, very aggressive downfield throwing. And he's been so good at it. Now this also involves CeeDee Lamb being the focal point of the offense. So I don't want to take anything away from him, but I really think if you're going to give the MVP to a Cowboy, I think it has to be Prescott.
I am going to go chalk. And per Adam, our producer, the betting favorite is Jalen Hurts. I just do think it should be Jalen Hurts. And some people probably are annoyed, like defaulting to the best player on the best team. First of all, it's not a bad tiebreaker in a year like this with Jalen Hurts. But I just think you can make Jalen Hurts' real life fantasy argument, real life MVP argument through a fantasy lens, because you see, honestly, in fantasy football, just how unstoppable and how irreplaceable Jalen Hurts is. Because the days where he's not passing well, it's like, whatever, we'll have our quarterback convert every 3rd and 4th and short.
Yes.
We'll have him handle every goal line carry. It will never fail. When we do need a big throw, he will almost always make it. And like, they've 3 games in a row now, they've beaten the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Bills. He's made like game-winning plays in essentially all of those games. He does commit a fair amount of turnovers, not at all like a league-leading amount of turnovers, but it's not like he's like Mr. No turnover. But I just feel like in any kind of game script, any kind of offensive environment, he is making the winning plays for the Eagles. The 2nd year in a row he's doing it.
Yeah.
He's so unstoppable on the most important plays. I mean, How often is a game decided by a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1 or a goal line? And he just converts all of them. That I really do think it's kind of like a coronation type award for him, like a valedictory type award for the past 2 years. But I don't think it's a faulty narrative. There's still a lot of season to go, but I do think Jalen Hurts deserves to be the MVP of the NFL this season so far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to push back too hard on that. The tush push becoming the most unstoppable play in all of organized sports is really something. I mean, I feel like as football fans, we maybe take it for granted, but when a team can essentially guarantee that it can convert every single 3rd and 4th and 1,
it's great. We've honestly never seen anything quite like it.
And, I mean, that you talk about an edge, and these teams, they want the smallest edges. That's a huge edge. Okay, they on 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2, whatever, right? You don't care if you go deep and you miss it, you're gonna just convert 4th down. Like nobody else has that luxury, despite teams trying to do it. I will say that I know folks are probably upset we didn't talk about Brock Purdy, and I'm not going to talk about Brock Purdy as an MVP candidate, but I will tell you this. I'm going to only tell you what the data says, okay? And the data is very kind to Mr. Purdy. Second in the league in completion rate over expected, tops in the league in success rate, tops in the league in EPA per dropback. Whether, is that all pass catchers? Is that the system? Could Nick Mullins also be in doing this? I don't know.
He could. We've seen Nick Mullins in the system. But he could not.
But wow, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo always had these horrifyingly good metrics where you're just like, okay, we just got to. It made me want to become a tape grinder. Jimmy G succeeding in San Francisco. Well, this is way worse. Brock Purdy just being dominant by every measure as the quarterback of the Niners.
I agree with. I think if anyone's going to make like a dark horse run at the MVP, the 2 obvious candidates are Brock Purdy and Tua. It's weird. Tua's become a little frustrating in fantasy because the Dolphins have just become too good.
Yeah.
And like the schedule has been a little too soft. And so many games I'm like, all right, we're getting the Tua explosion today. And it's 2 touchdowns, 252 yards. Like, wow. Congrats, man. Thanks. Yeah. Well, quote. I know you quote 136-17. I don't care about that. And we need four tutters. Because
Dolphins are actually 3% under their expected dropback rate over the past month. I mean, they're establishing it very hard.
And they're getting Devin Achane back maybe this week. Not good for my quote Tua bags. Is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing.
I think you used that right.
Did I? No.
I think you're left holding the bag.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm going to be left holding the Tua bag.
I'm not clear when someone is in their bag.
Just move out. Just edit. We'll edit that out. There's no way anyone will hear that.
Is that? I mean, no. I'm saying I don't know. The bag discourse is confusing to me.
It's a little confusing. Holding the bag is very bad. You don't want to get left holding.
I don't want to. You don't want to be holding.
No, you want to be giving. Receive it. No, you don't. Yeah, whatever.
You want to be in it. You want to be in or around the bag, but not holding it.
Tua or Brock. The thing with Brock, though, if there's any sort of Brock MVP discourse where people are like, well, it should just be Christian McCaffrey. That's going to be Brock's fatal flaw. He won't actually get into the MVP consideration. Because if anyone's like, if we're going to do a 49er, it can't be Brock Purdy.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah.
So Brock.
Wait, are you saying, did you ask me Tua or Brock?
No, I don't know. I don't know what I said.
No. Well, because I'm going Brock.
You're going. I think Tua has more likely odds than Brock, actually, because I think Brock will get screwed by the CMC narrative. I just realized the
Niners. You called them a Death Star, and boy, until one player misses a game, they are a Death Star.
I will finally forever remember those 3 games where they weren't totally unstoppable.
Yeah, right. And I mean, but it's a sensitive operation. It
is.
Like the backup left guard misses a game and it all falls apart. I don't know.
It is. That is one problem for Brock Purdy is that he's kind of like he's the Devin Achane of quarterbacks. He needs everything to be perfect. And it's been perfect for a shockingly long time for San Francisco. Producer Adam was wondering about where do CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins rank in terms of quarterback wide receiver combinations in the league right now? Because they're both kind of in the top 20. By the way, CJ Stroud can make a dark horse.
Yeah.
You can't call them the best because he's still behind the Eagles for sure. I think he's still behind even the Dolphins. We're talking about like a quarterback and 2 receivers. Even with Jalen Waddle kind of struggling this year, you take that Dolphins trio, you take that Eagles trio, but you don't take the Rams trio anymore because Matthew Stafford he's quote done. That's his word. I'm done. I'm done with this.
Yeah,
wow.
He did that. Yeah, no, the Rotoworld won't report it.
Rotoworld, we didn't post a blurb on it. I don't know why. Thought we should have.
We're kidding.
Been yelling at Kyle about that. But they're becoming an elite
they are
trio in this league, Denny.
I mean, yeah, I would say top 5 for sure as far as trios go. It kind of interesting. I was looking into the numbers lately on Nico Collins and Tank Dell. And
is Nico Collins good? Can you tell me?
So look, I don't know. I don't watch the games. His dot on the screen is good. So here's the thing. They've combined, Collins and Dell have combined for a 51% target share and a 67% air yard share over the past 2 games. So Nico Collins came back 2 games ago. They've absolutely dominated combined since then with Noah Brown sidelined. They on the season, Tank Dell and Nico Collins have the same end zone targets, the 5, and the same target per route run, which is 26%. Nico Collins has an edge in first read target rate for what it's worth. He's led in targets the last 2 weeks. I do think we might be selling short Nico Collins a little bit.
That does feel he had such a strange start to his career where he just really didn't do anything until CJ Stroud got to town. He had some injury issues. And
he did.
Everyone is more excited about Tank, so it kind of caused you to overlook Nico.
Well, he's a more exciting player. He's a more exciting, he's more dynamic. Like he's super fast. He creates all this crazy separation. His name is Tank, for God's sake.
Yes.
So that his name, if his name was Andrew, we wouldn't be talking about it.
It's true. Andrew Dell would not sound the same.
No, we'd be like that. The guy, Nico Collins' sidekick, Andrew Dell. But
I don't trust this guy.
But Nico, Nico is super solid, and I learned the hard way that in DFS he's about half as rostered as Tank Dell.
No.
Oh well.
Yeah, I guess that's not surprising whatsoever. By the way, you've announced that you've been eating the chalk this year.
Oh, I've been gobbling up the chalk, guys. Nothing tastes better than some DFS chalk. Listen, it's chalk for a reason. It's chalk for a reason because those guys are basically guaranteed to score you a bunch of points. And you know what? I feel fine if I have a 25% roster dude who scores me 29 PPR points. I'm good with that. I don't care that he was highly rostered. I'm fine.
And the chalk has tasted a lot better since there are only 5 good offenses in the NFL.
That's true.
Like 6 or 7 years ago, there were like 18 good offenses.
Yeah.
So going quote contrarian actually worked.
I mean, seriously, I'm 80% of my diet is chalk at this
point. Wow. So very interesting. It sounds like you should get a drink of water.
I'm losing weight.
You are? Well, I guess that's good. We'll be right back after this. It's a career first for Patrick Mahomes on Sunday Night Football. The reigning MVP will travel to Lambeau Field for the first time when he takes on Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. And don't forget, find all your favorite NBC sports shows and Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. Denny, Calvin Ridley, elite again, ? This is what the folks are dying to know. What I am dying to know because I'm heavily invested in Calvin Ridley remaining elite and heavily invested in all the narratives. And he's running in breaking routes now. Zay Jones makes him good somehow. I still don't know if the data really bears that out or if it's just what causation. What's the phrase? Correlation.
Correlation
is not equal. Causation does not equal correlation or something like that.
Well, I know it is kind of a joke that like, Zay Jones being back is good. It makes Calvin Ridley elite. But hey, it actually does coincide. The fact that Zay Jones has been back and Calvin Ridley has been way better. We talked about him not just running, straight go routes on the sideline. That's good. His average depth of target has remained insanely high. It was 14 in week 11, and it was almost 18 in week 12. He's seeing a lot less press coverage since Zay Jones is back. Again, look, you can watch that film and tell me why. I don't know. His targets per route run has increased pretty significantly, 24% over those past 2 games. It was only 20% before that. Maybe the team is making a concerted effort to, I don't know, get the ball to their best pass catcher.
Yeah, man, I was sweating bullets when he had 0 catches at halftime, including
right.
dropping a 30-yard touchdown. But he is like popping off the screen too in terms of like EPA, I think, and almost all the advanced metrics.
Yeah.
Feed Cal Ridley, as I call him. Feed Cal.
Listen, expected points wise, he's off the chart.
He is, and it's getting some actual points now.
Yeah, right. Expected points. They are converting now to points that you can actually eat and feed your family with.
That's true. Something to pair with the chalk. Actual points. It's very good. It's a full, well-rounded, hearty meal. I'm assuming Zay Flowers pops in all the expected metrics, and he popped in the actual fantasy points metrics on Sunday evening. Part of that was for a 37-yard touchdown where he should not have even scored. He should have gone down at the 1-yard line and ended the game. But he scored, and everyone was very happy about the receiving touchdown. Everyone very happy about Zay Flowers. I could move beyond. He had 25 yards against the Chargers, which is called one drive for every other elite wide receiver that faces the Chargers.
Jeez.
And just, I've been grading the Ravens super harshly all year. But
yeah, you have.
Is this an arrival for Zay Flowers? Or were people getting too excited over one?
I think Zay Flowers' prospects are definitely boosted by Mark Andrews' absence, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, against the Chargers, he had 5 catches on 7 targets. He was targeted on only 21% of his routes. He's basically, Zay Flowers is never the first read. He's never like the first plan.
And never down the field ever
for the Ravens. Who is like basically always the first plan is Odell Beckham.
Yeah, I know. They love that guy.
Okay. He was limited with the shoulder, I think, and maybe some other issues during that game against the Chargers. But he was targeted on 42% of his pass routes against LA, which is just absurd. Again, 3 catches for 34 yards. It was not the best. But you look at his first read target rate, almost 30%. Like, when he's healthy, I think that he's the wide receiver 1 in this offense.
It had been trending that way until he banged a shoulder at the very end of that Thursday night game. But after 10 days, he played through it against the Chargers. Now he has 2 weeks to heal up because they're going on their bye. And I do think when he comes back, he's going to be the clear Ravens wide receiver 1. I can't say I fully understand it. He was looking very springy in that Thursday night game against the Bengals, I must say. The best he had looked since getting injured. Probably the best he had looked since the Super Bowl.
Who is the Bengals guy who had that dirty hit on Andrews?
What's his name? Logan Wilson?
Logan Wilson. So Logan Wilson who's almost 3 for 3 in that game. He took out Andrews intentionally. He tried to take out Lamar Jackson on the sideline, and he tried to take out Odell Beckham on that long catch and run. Like that guy, he was on a roll.
He was on a roll. He'll be getting a strongly worded letter from Roger Goodell via certified mail. They won't Zoom him for some reason. I don't know why. But that was a very crazy game. But Zay Flowers, man, seriously, it's never down the field. Even more than the first read stuff, it's never down the field. Like, they saw his Boston College film where he's in like one of the worst offenses in all of America, where they had no quarterback play, so they had to manufacture touches. I'm like, well, I guess that's what we got to do.
Yeah,
and this is all they do.
Yeah,
I wanted more.
Yeah, Zay Flowers 37 air yards on 7 targets against the Chargers. So that just kind of confirms what you're saying.
Man, the usage could change and should change. They now have a bye week to think about it too, so maybe that could work in Zay Flowers' favor. But yeah, I will feel like we should probably pump the brakes a little bit on the Zay Flowers takeover for the.
It wasn't a takeover. No.
Was it a takeover for Rashee Rice? Had his first 100-yard game, career high 8 catches. He scored a touchdown, which he does almost every other week. Had some really bad drops, of course, which he does almost every game. The score is a 39-yard yards after catch special. But the Chiefs really, really need someone to step up and be the number 1 receiver. But so do you think that was like kind of the next step for Rashee Rice, or do you think it was just a one-off?
Well, I mean, I think you have to consider that, they were missing some key pass catchers. They were missing pass catchers, Kadarius Toney and Jerick McKinnon. That helps. That definitely helps his cause. His route rate was up, but it wasn't like it wasn't in like the 80 or 90% range. He was targeted on 42% of his routes, which was his season high by far, by a huge margin. That led to the 10 targets. From a film standpoint, and that's what I'll give you on this show. I actually heard Dan Orlovsky say on ESPN that they were doing something different with Rashee Rice, which is they were making sure that he was catching the ball on the run against the Raiders. That is not something they had been doing previously, and he really responded with a lot of really great catch and runs after the catch. So I do think that sort of change could be positive for him. But again, he's really still not out there a lot.
You heard Dan Orlovsky say that, by the way, after he said, I don't do chicken. And he just unleashes a food take, and the whole desk is like, what? What do you mean you don't do chicken? What does that mean, Dan?
Listen, if Dan can tell me why Rashee Rice did well for one game, I'm going to listen to Dan.
I think his food takes are almost on par with yours, actually. I feel like it's been a while. People have #forgotten how truly awful your food takes are.
Well, recently on my Friday stream on the NFL and NBC YouTube channel, I talked up green bean casserole as the best Thanksgiving.
What? Stop.
Dish.
There's no way that's not a bit.
There's
no way that's not a bit.
Okay, listen to me. I ate 2 platefuls of green bean casserole.
Didn't need to hear that. You didn't need to say that on the podcast. You just say that off air. I mean, I wasn't kidding about the casserole thing. I ate 2 plates of that. And then I vomited into my trash can. I can't do that on the air, though. But yeah, you and Dan have similar food takes. He's blazed the trail for awful food takes that you were following in.
Listen, Dan, we need to get together. Me and
Dan. You guys really do need to get together.
And we need to talk about which food is best.
Well, you don't do cheese, which is just like
cheese.
Cheese
is all the same.
It's decidedly not.
I mean, we have to pretend, this cheese tastes different than that one. Come on.
Real quick, do we need to pretend Jalin Hyatt is good? I do think he's good. He had a season high 6 targets, first 100-yard games. Tommy DeVito, though, now they're on bye. Does it count this time for Jalin Hyatt, or is there just no reason to get invested in this down the stretch?
I'm kind of excited because it looks like the Giants are doing the thing that we talked about, where they're like, hey, we should probably get the ball to our best players.
Turns out anyone other than Daniel Jones can throw down the field too.
But the good thing is with Hyatt, it wasn't only down the field; it was some intermediate targets too. So like they were like, we should get the ball to the guy who's the fastest guy on the team, and that worked out. And so I think we're onto something there with Hyatt.
I just thought, what's going on with Darren Waller? Is he out for the year, or is he coming back?
Oh, I have not thought about Darren Waller.
No one has mentioned Darren Waller since like October 20th. I wonder what's going on there.
I totally forgot about Darren. I actually am not sure we can look into that though.
No, I'm looking it up right now what our most recent blurb is.
Yeah.
Giants send Darren Waller to IR. That was on November 4th. We need to get someone needs to look into this very strongly. What's going on?
If only one of us could do something about this.
All of us have the power. 24 days.
Oh, well.
24 days. We need to look into that. We need to look into ending the show. We had a lot of digressions. A lot of laughs.
This is a great show.
A lot of love.
Yeah.
I wanted to see just how you reacted to that. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this Tuesday afternoon. Seriously, could not do it without you. We hope you're back on Thursday when Denny, Kyle, and I break down the entire Week 13 slate. We hope you check out the regression files live on the site Wednesday, my rankings live on the site Thursday, Denny's chat on Friday, this funnel article on Friday. I'll be heading over to Reddit on Thursday, by the way.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Having a Q&A, so check that out. Look for that. So for Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you for listening. We'll be back in 2 days' time.